Hey everyone, welcome to Welcome Life. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. That way you won't miss a single video that I post. I post a video every Tuesday morning for a morning show where I talk about the news that is coming and how to welcome Jesus into your everyday life. And then I do an episode every Thursday with interviews like you're about to see, where we talk about how people are changing the lives of others while helping themselves to welcome Jesus and welcome life. In this video, I talked to a good friend, Adam Ziegler, who has worked with a compassionate ministry called New Hope on the Last Frontier. In this video, he talks about how he's showing love to homeless, and his job, his desire is to change the way poverty and homeless is working here in Anchorage, Alaska. So I hope that you enjoy the interview. Let's get to it. Adam, you've been on the Light Street District for 5 years, or 6 years almost, right? 6 years? Mm-hmm. And what do you do on the Light Street District? What do you do here?
So I do a lot on the Alaska District. I am the District NY President, and because of that I serve on the District Advisory Board. I also serve on the District Camp Board. I am the Compassionate Ministries Center Director, so I run New Hope on the Last Frontier, okay. Which has become known as New Hope Compassionate Ministries. I am also, because I'm the NY President, I also serve on our Field Council, which is made up of the Northwest Field, so states from Colorado, Washington, Oregon, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho.
All those places, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So that's a lot of what I do. I'm also a worship leader at Jewel Lake Church of the Nazarene, and I am the youth pastor.
There's worship
pastors.
a
lot. Feels like a lot. A lot of different, all one title.
I didn't have a lot of worship leaders on this
it's all me.
On this channel. I mean,
it's just a lot. Yeah, you do. You like worship leaders.
Worship's awesome. That's why I like worship leaders. I mean,
that means you must be one. Are you going to be one, Josh?
Yeah, no. No, I can talk in front of a camera. I can talk to people. Singing is not one of my best traits.
Nice.
So today I want to talk to you about the New Hope, on New Hope, and we can get to youth ministry because I know that's the second passion of yours.
Sure.
New Hope, you say it's a compassionate ministry. So what exactly does that entail? Like when you say compassionate ministry, because let's face it, compassionate ministries encompass a lot. That's a very broad topic.
Sure. So compassionate ministries, the idea behind it comes from Jesus. Right after Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, all these people were gathered, and the Bible tells us that Jesus had compassion on them.
Okay.
And it was, the word that's used there actually means like a deep longing within the core of who he was. So Jesus had a deep compassion, a deep burden for these people, and so then he asked the disciples to feed them.
Okay.
And that's told in every feeding story. There's a couple of them, and so every feeding story there's this word compassion. Jesus had compassion on them. And so a compassionate ministry center is a place where we do ministry out of this desire to see other humans better their lives. Our goal here is to break the cycle of poverty in people's lives. And so that cycle of poverty has a lot of different facets. Sometimes it's because people just don't have enough money to make ends meet. Sometimes it's homelessness. They don't have a place to stay. Sometimes it's mental health. Sometimes it's generational, and so it requires working with kids or teens. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's addiction. So for us, our deep desire, our compassion, the longing we have for the betterment of somebody else, inspires us to operate a food pantry, operate recovery program, and to serve our homeless population here in Anchorage with a place where they can come and worship. They can come and be involved in a church that's for them.
Right.
But ultimately, compassion is that deep longing to see somebody else's life better.
That's awesome, because I'm a compassionate guy. I would say I could probably do better in that sense.
Sure.
But so you said, I like how you talked about the homeless, because let's face it, homeless people get a bad rap.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I even saw on a news feed, I don't know, a couple of days ago, that a person, and she's not homeless, but she's low income, homeless, and so y'all, and she stole 5 eggs from the store to support her family. Mm-hmm. You know, in one person's mind, those 5 eggs stolen, it's like she's stolen. Another person's mind is, well, shouldn't we show some compassion on this person because
right.
she's trying to support her family?
Sure.
So how, or would you say that you're also trying to change the face on, I'm going to say change the face on how people, no, what's that? Change the face on how people view homeless. In other words, like showing them that you can love them and not just place they're robbers or some sort of hate speech onto them.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, so there's two aspects of what you said, Josh. Like for the homeless population, these are men and women who just don't have homes.
Right.
They're folks who don't live in the same way that you and I live. They don't go home to an apartment or a house. They either live by walking the streets all the time, 24 hours a day. They may live in tents. They may camp in some of our public spaces. They may stay at a shelter. But the main thing is they just don't have a home like you and I have. But they are people.
Right.
They have feelings. They have emotions. They have struggles. They love. They get hurt. They get sick. They are people just like you and I. And when the rest of us, housed people, when we look at the homeless population, we tend to not see ourselves, but we see somebody totally different.
Right.
So I've read in 2 different places where somebody said, when I look at that person, I don't see that person, I see myself. Except for a couple circumstances, I could be that person.
Right.
Martin Luther, the famous Reformationist, said when someone was being carted through the city, getting ready to be hung, he said, "But for the grace of God go I." In the book To Kill a Mockingbird, they talk about the struggle between African Americans and the white Southerners there. And the one older lady in the book, she says, Miss Maud, she says, but for the grace of God go I.
Right.
I was born this way. What if I was born that way?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I talk to people about homelessness, all of us live on a fine line between being housed and being homeless. If in your life, Josh, if your wife got sick and could no longer work as a nurse, you would have a hard time caring for your family.
I would.
And so there's a fine line there. Many of us live paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was a huge crisis in our life, we would be out of our homes. We would be homeless. And now the good thing for you and the good thing for me is I have family that would say, oh, come live with us.
But some people don't have that.
But a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, they don't have that.
So what I really want to do is when people look at a homeless person on the street, not to see that person in their dirtiness, their griminess, maybe in a drunken state, or maybe in a mental health state, or maybe sleeping on a park bench and say, oh, how dare they, or how could they be that way? Mm-hmm. But rather what I want people to do is see that person and say, man, that could be me. Or, man, that is me. How can I help them? What can I do different? How can I serve them?
So walking, essentially, you're wanting to put yourself in their shoes and say, what if I was in their situation? What would I want done for me?
Yeah.
Instead of most people just saying, "Oh, look at that person. He can't even take care of himself."
Right.
And we've all heard that. I mean, it's a sad truth that's the world we live in today, where you see one person, and don't get me wrong, there probably are people who take advantage of the system, but that's on anything.
Yeah.
And so to have a compassionate ministries like New Hope come in and say, I don't really care what they are, who they are, or race or gender or whatever. I'm gonna love these people like Christ loved the church. That's amazing. Like I probably should come here more often and help.
Well, you got to think about it this way, right? You said, there are people who take advantage of the system. Scripture doesn't tell us that when Jesus fed the 5,000, he doesn't tell us how many of those people already had food.
Right, that's true. That's true.
So Jesus fed them because they were there.
Yep.
He didn't feed them because they were poor. It doesn't say that. He didn't feed them because one person had something and somebody else didn't. He fed everybody. He had compassion on all people.
Right.
And I think we close ourselves off for what God really wants to do in us and through us when we say, well, I don't want to serve these people because what if they really have something?
Question for the day. What are some ways that you are doing homeless ministry in your neighborhood? What are some ways that you are helping the homeless in your neighborhood? You don't have to have a compassionate ministry in order to be serving the homeless. You don't have to have a compassionate ministry to be loving the homeless. You can do it yourself. So what are some ways that you are doing it? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. Let's get back to it.
We see this politically. A lot of people talk about our government assistance programs like Medicaid and Medicare, the food stamps or SNAP benefits. You often see an argument, well, there's people that take advantage of the system. And the reality is that's the smallest percentage of people who are in those programs are the people who take advantage. But because it's so small of a number, it gets big recognition. It's like, whoa, how could they do that?
Right.
Well, then everybody must be like that. And it's
not true. It's not true at all.
Yeah,
it's not true at all. I mean, like you said, we're on that fine line, and we all know someone who is living off of that fine line. You know, we all know someone. And it's hard for us not to judge that person. It's hard. But that's where you say, like, that's when we got to be more like Jesus and show compassion and not hate. And not judge the person based off of what their life circumstances are. Because when we do that, well, I'm no different than they are. They're probably judging me and saying, oh, look how high and mighty that person is. You know what I mean? Because they could say the same thing about us. They really could. And so that's what you do. And so you say you're also a worship leader and a youth pastor. At the same church.
Yes. I do a lot of things. Yes.
You wear a lot of hats in this world, Adam. A lot of hats.
I do.
So
I have a hard time saying no.
Oh, well, that's a different show in and of itself. Let's talk about worship for a second, because again, I love talking about worship. I've had Heather on this last episode, and we talked about worship as a lifestyle. Crystal Erb was on an episode before that. Again, we talked about worship as a lifestyle. And you probably know worship. So what would you say, besides just working at New Hope, outside of your regular job, let's put it this way, because your regular job is like mine. We're geared towards worship as a lifestyle. But on your everyday, regular, daily basis, what would you say you do as just a normal form of worship?
It's a normal form of worship.
Just a normal form of worship for you.
A normal form of worship for me would be silence.
Silence?
I know it's hard for you, Josh, right?
I talk a lot.
So for me, I try to find some point in my day where I can be silent. where the music's not playing, or I'm not talking. Even try to take it a step further, and where I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
This morning I woke up. My kids were going to school. 2 high schoolers. I know I don't look old enough to have 2 high schoolers.
No, you don't.
But 2 high schoolers, that they went off early this morning. My wife's a school teacher. She was off early this morning, and so I just spent some time. Yeah, I just spent some time sitting in my room. And this cool snowboard bench in my room, and I just kind of sat there and just, allowed the presence of God to fill me and prepare me for my day. Just being silent.
Right.
I think of Moses on the mountain and Elijah on the mountain, and these folks, God came to them in the quiet, in the stillness.
So just silence. Silence is what you. Yeah, and like you said, jokingly, I know, but I talk a lot, so
yeah.
I probably should practice silence more often. Of course, I have 2. I have a 5-month-old and a 2-year-old, and a new puppy at my house right now.
Nice.
So silence really is. Getting alone for silence is difficult. Let's put it that way. But it probably is something that we all should practice more often.
Yeah. It's a good skill to teach your kids. Even at a young age, to teach your kids, say, hey, we're just, we're going to turn the TV off. We're going to turn the music off. We're just going to, even just sitting and playing in quiet is huge. In a world that we live in that's high energy, high distraction, high movement, taking times to just turn everything off.
Right.
Even if you're just playing with your kid with no distractions on, I mean, how many times do we actually play with our kids without the TV on?
I can't name a single time I've done that.
Yeah, so that's, for me, the worship, daily lifestyle of worship means actually kind of thinking about everything you do and how you can enhance that in your relationship with God and in your relationship with others, right? Because, the ultimate commandment is love the Lord your God, but also love your neighbor as yourself. So,
right.
How do we, in our worship, how do we involve both sides of that coin?
Right. So that's what you do as a worship and as a youth pastor. But you've been in youth ministry probably longer than you've been in any other ministry, if that's safe to say?
I'd like to say, Josh, I've been in youth ministry longer than you're alive, but you're getting up there in years, so I can't do that. But I've been in youth ministry over 20 years. Actually, it's 20 years. Was 20 years this year, 1999. 1999 was when I started. I started as a youth pastor. Just kind of, I think the church paid me $50 a week. It paid for my gas to pick up the students and get them to church. And I was 20 years old, so it was a great experience learning that way. And youth ministry has changed some, and some ways not.
Right.
But yeah, I love teens. I love working with teens. I love hanging out with them. They're a lot of fun. They're more fun than adults.
Yes.
They have their own issues and their own problems, but they're more willing to be open and honest and work through them. They don't just brush them under the rug and say that doesn't really happen.
Right. And then hide them and say, oh, this doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
That's bogus. It does affect you.
Yeah.
Because I'm a youth pastor too, and I love my teens. I love, like you said, I love the openness that they have. Because of that openness, though, we have to make sure that we're open to them also. I mean,
sure.
I think that's the thing. Well, Adam, I know we were saying before this, you're a busy man. You're a very, very busy man.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for taking just a short time out of your day for this interview. And if we want to connect with you, with New Hope, how can we do that? Where are you at?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram and on Facebook. AJ Ziggy is my Instagram title.
AJ Ziggy. What's AJ for?
Adam John.
Adam John. Okay, yeah, sorry, Adam John.
You can check me out on Facebook. Adam Ziegler. For New Hope, we're at New Hope AK.
Okay.
That's our Instagram and Facebook. It's both the same, at New Hope AK. You can check us out on the web at newhopeak.org.
Okay.
You can always stop by, man. Come on down to 1220 East Street and check us out. If you're in Anchorage,
if you're in Anchorage, Alaska,
you know, if you're not in Anchorage, that's okay too. But you can make the trip up here. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Adam, for taking the time out of your day. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. See you next time.